hi to my 50 subscribers, which is crazy to say. I literally saw that one day and I was like, oh my gosh, who's watching these videos and why? But thank you for being here nonetheless. Today I'm in Iceland. I'm just having a chill day today, so I thought I would record a video of like a knit and chat about what knitting tools I think you do and don't need. If I'm being quiet, it's because I'm knitting in public, which I think is a little bit scary for me. But also, I recorded this whole video and the camera wasn't even pointed towards me because I'm using back camera, so I didn't notice that. But anyways, today I'm wearing my Alice Starmore Oregon Autumn cardigan, this one, and I'm knitting using the Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in the coal color, the Ophelia tank by Starcross Knits. Oh, my knitting keeps flying away, hold on. By the way, last time I filmed this video, a bird pooped like 3 inches in front of my phone, so that was like kind of scary. But anyway, so let's just get started into the video. So if you're a new knitter, this is probably gonna be useful for you, and I would say don't start buying these things until you've experimented with just using like a single pair of straight needles in like a 5 to 7 size range, with like a DK weight yarn. I honestly would recommend that yarn for beginners and like needle size for beginners. But after you did that and you want to invest more in knitting, then I would probably, the first thing I would buy is a knitting needles kit. So like a kit with all the sizes and the different cord lengths. So I'm using the Chai-Gu one, which is pretty popular. There's also other brands you can buy, and to be honest, I like the metal ones better, but you can get the wooden ones. The wooden ones for me break though, so I don't know. But people like the bamboo, so it's up to you. Just experiment with what you like. But the Chai-Gu one that I have, it comes with different cord lengths and different needle lengths. So there's 2 needle lengths per size. So like the long one and then like a little bit of a shorter one. Also something that I find as like an absolute necessity, because I knit a lot of like garments and I don't want to use double pointed needles all the time, is I have the Chai-Gu Shorties kit in the red and the blue. So the red is the smaller size for I think like from 0 to maybe US 3. And then the bigger size is like US 4 to I think US 8. That's the blue kit. They're a bit pricey, but honestly they're worth it because I don't have to go and buy double pointed needles for every size. And I use them for the sleeves, I use them for mittens, just shorter in circumference projects. Honestly, really worth it to me. Also, just be aware, if you are using double pointed needles, they can get confiscated in TSA. So just be aware of that. That's why I prefer to have like the circular ones, because this is not going to get taken away usually. And just life hack, if you're traveling to another country and you're not really sure about the rules, just put this back in the case, like untwist it and put it back in the case. If it's just sticking out like this, then it's could get like flagged and whatever. But I would also look up the different rules for knitting needles in different countries. There's some like the US that are expressly permitted, and some countries like Turkey, I've heard people have problems with them. So just be cautious of that. You don't want to have your really expensive needles get taken away for something like that. Alright, something else that I think you definitely need is a tapestry needle and a crochet hook. Even if crochet is not your craft, I would still have a crochet hook. You can buy them for super, super cheap at the thrift store. They have millions of them. I use the crochet hooks for weaving in ends because it helps me get that nice even look at the end. So when I do the weaving, it gets it to like the very end part, which I can't really do with the tapestry needle. I can't go that far usually. The tapestry needle I more use for sewing seams, so both of them I would definitely invest in. Alright, something else that I use a lot, but I don't have it with me on this trip, is a tape measure. It just helps me like compare my project to other projects and like the desired length that I want it to be. And I would get like an actual tape measure. I wouldn't get like the sticks because those are a little bit harder if you have something that's not flat that you're trying to measure. That's helpful. Something I don't really use is that gauge tool. You know, it's like a rectangle. It looks like this, and it has like different measurements. I don't use that. I think it's a little bit like of a frivolous buy. You can have it if you want, but I would never buy that. I've gotten it for free actually though, so I do have one. Something else that I think you definitely need is stitch markers. You can just get like a generic pair, like the orange and blue ones, if you know what I'm talking about, like you probably know. They're really cheap, and they come in a big pack of them. They're pretty generic, standard pair. There's no need to get like a super fancy set of stitch markers unless you really want it. Sometimes like the heavy ones also can weigh your knitting down, so I wouldn't like clip something heavy into the knitting because it tugs on the stitch, which is not good. Alright, something I don't think that you need is stitch stoppers and like the cable stitch holders, or even, well, I'll mention this later, but those two kind of are related. Stitch stoppers, I mean, unless you're traveling a lot, but I travel a lot and I don't use them. I just push them like really far back on my work so it doesn't come out, or just like I tie it sometimes. Or you know what you can do? You can use a bigger needle, so untwist the one that you have and twist a bigger needle size in, so that way you know for a fact that the stitches like can't even come up. So it's like a makeshift stitch stopper. And for a stitch holder, like if I want to try on my knitting, I just use another one of these cables that comes in the kit. So I use like another similar needle size, and I have like half of them on this round and half of them on another, and that's how I try them on. But I don't actually buy those ones. Also cable needles. I mean, if you're like just getting into cables, I do have a pair and I literally never use them because I thought I was gonna get into cables that way, but I find it so much faster and more efficient to just like take it off the needle and twist it without getting a cable needle involved. So that's just me. Blocking mats. I don't think you need blocking mats. Okay, this is the only circumstance that I think it's very crucial and necessary, is if you're knitting granny squares, crocheting granny squares, or any type of square thing, like you want to make a patchwork blanket or something. In that case, I was gifted one for my birthday. I would definitely recommend that because it helps them all come out to even size squares, which they weren't coming out to even size squares when I was knitting them. So in order to sew them together and have it look nice, you definitely need one of those. But for blocking, I just put it on a towel and just leave it to dry. Sometimes I put another towel over and like step on it to get more of the excess water out, but you do have to keep replacing the towels or moving the position of the item on the towel so it can dry faster. It's like not just sitting on the same wet spot over and over again, if you know what I mean. Yarn bowls. I don't think you need a yarn bowl. I never had a yarn bowl, and I've been able to knit just fine. You can't take it anywhere, really. It's just like sitting in your house. And just put it on like your bed or your couch or just in a bag if you're concerned about it rolling away. I just think it's kind of something that people get gifted a lot that I don't have room for in my house right now. But and another thing that I don't understand, if somebody could please explain it to me, I would be very appreciative, is, oh my gosh, this keeps moving a lot. The knitting hand salve. I've never understood that. I have gotten it in some kits before, but I don't know what to do with it because I don't want to knit with something like sticky and like oily on my hands. I feel like that would discolor the yarn or just make the yarn sticky. So but something I think is like a 50-50 you can have, but you don't need to have, is a ball winder. And what's the spinny thing called? I don't even remember what the spinny thing is called, but they usually, like, you need to get both of them together. So if you're knitting a lot of projects that require a lot of yarn, like it's not just a single skein of yarn, or you buy lots of skeins instead of like just these balls as they come in, then and if you have room for it, I would definitely buy one because, like, for example, this project took like I think 25 skeins of yarn, so there was no way I was just gonna sit there and just unwind everything. And I don't have a knitting store nearby that will do it for me, so I have one at home. But if you do have a knitting store and you buy a lot of balls like this, the knitting stores will either just do it for you or you can just do it yourself. It's not the most pleasant of activities to do, but it's doable. Like, I have had to do it while I was traveling and I just had the skeins of yarn and I didn't really have a choice. So in that kind of situation, I would just bite the bullet and do it yourself. Okay, so I left for my walk, my sitting spot, and I just started walking. So I'm just gonna have this be like a voiceover for these cute little clips that I took while traveling. So I'm just gonna tell you the last thing that I don't think you really need, which is like a novelty pair of those small scissors, unless you're traveling. And I know like the TSA rules for the US are that they need to be under 5 inches for them to be able to fly. So in that case, yes. But in most cases, I never travel with a pair of scissors. And honestly, I just cut the yarn or I just like break the yarn with my hands. But if you're just like knitting at home, you probably already have a pair of scissors lying around. You're a crafty person, you know? Just use that. No need to get like the super cutesy, fancy pair of scissors that look like the birds, even though I definitely have one of those ones. They are fun to have though. But I have had one of them taken away by TSA in some other country that I don't remember which one it was right now, but just be mindful of that. And thank you guys so much for watching my videos. Genuinely, I don't know how I got to 50 subscribers, but that is really cool. So enjoy this video and goodbye.